Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name's Leora Eileen and I talk on here about books, reading, writing and sometimes other stuff as well. Today I'm going to be doing another oddly specific book recommendations videos. It's been a while since I've done one of these and I thought to make it a little bit more fun I'm going to do one that is fantasy themed, so all the oddly specific requests and all of my recommendations are going to be fantasy-esque books, so that's really exciting. If you want to participate in one of these videos next time and give me an oddly specific prompt to react to, definitely follow me on Instagram. My Instagram is Leora Eileen. And before we get into the rest of the video, I would also like to give a shout out to my web shop, which is also called Leora Eileen, where I sell my art, bookmarks, tote bags, all sorts of cool bookish stuff. If you would like to support me and my work, definitely check out my new website or my Etsy if you live in the UK. I would love for you to support me and check it out. And yes, that would be really nice. You can support me making content on this channel, for example. So with all of that out of the way, let's get into the books and the oddly specific requests. This is my coffee thing, by the way, before you think, what is she howling around? It's just that. So for the first one, I have sort of put two requests together and I'm going to recommend one book based off of that because there's one book that fits both. So I was like, that's so handy. So the oddly specific requests are a book with mysterious characters and cults, and somebody else said a fantasy book set in London. This is a novel I've talked about a bit already on my channel recently. It's The Invisible Library by Genevieve Cogman, and it is full of mysterious societies, cult-esque figures, and also set in London, or well, different alternate versions of London. And next to all of that, it's got mysterious characters 100%. There's multiple ones of them. So in this story we follow Irene and she's working as a spy for the mysterious society of the Invisible Library, and they basically protect, collect, steal all these magical tomes and books from all different sorts of worlds, and they have portals to all of those worlds as well. Very exciting, very cool premise. In this book, she and her assistant Kai, she doesn't know him yet, he's new, they are posted to this alternate London to secure a book. This world is sort of chaos infested, so loads of things are absolutely ham in this world, absolutely crazy. There's multiple secret societies running amok. There's a detective who's very mysterious and can they trust him? And then there's of course her new assistant Kai. Is he what he says he is? Can she trust him? In this story there's detectives, there's vampires, there is elves, there's also dragons. It's very cool. It felt like a sort of police mystery story fused into this magical, strange world, and I loved the banter between characters as well. It's very action-packed. I prefer a bit less action, but I think if you really like action and if you think this all sounds pretty good, then I highly recommend this one. Then somebody said a book taking place in a world that you wish our world was more like. Oh, this is such a cute request, and when I heard it, I immediately thought of a couple of different books actually. So the Tea Dragon Society immediately came to mind for me. I know I talk about this book a lot, but it's just one of my favorites. It's so cute and wholesome, and I really need to reread it because it's such a lovely read. So this is by Kai O'Neill, and it's basically a graphic novel where we see different seasons. And in each season there's different tea dragons and different tea to drink and a little different adventure as well. So there's these dragons and they grow tea leaves, and from those leaves you can make teas. So they sort of live together with the dragons and they pluck the tea leaves like the way you would, I don't know, like get the wool from a sheep, I guess. It's sort of like a farmy situation. It's very cute. Definitely has major cottagecore vibes as well, and it's just adorable. And I wish our world was just a little bit more like this. Like, you know, Renaissance fair, fantasy markets, cute animals on every corner, wisdom from ancient elders. To an anxiety-ridden girl like me, this just sounds so lovely. And it's definitely a world I want to vanish in, so yes, 100% the Tea Dragon Society. If I would pick anything else than the Tea Dragon Society, I would probably go for something like the X-Hex, because in the X-Hex there's like witches, but it is sort of our world, but it's very cozy and atmospheric, you know, and it just sounds so lovely, and they really describe how everything looks, and it's like major fall vibes, and it just sounds like really nice and cute and fun, you know? So I think if not the Tea Dragon Society, I would choose something like that for this question. Then this request is so cute. I love it. A book that feels like it was written by a fairy. I immediately had a few that came to mind actually. They are both very fairy vibes. So first we have Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. Have not read this. I've waved it around on the channel. I still have not read it. I really want to. I feel like I will adore it. I feel like it's like just right up my alley and something I would really enjoy. A curmudgeonly professor journeys to a small town in the far north to study fairy folklore and discovers dark magic, friendship and love in this heartwarming and enchanting fantasy. So maybe not exactly like a fairy has written it, but it's definitely got fairy vibes. Just the entire graphic design of this book as well is so stunning. I am obsessed with it. It's so beautiful. So I cannot wait to pick this up, and it's definitely a book that gives off major fairy vibes. And then this book could definitely be written by a fairy. I've shown it in one of my vlogs as well. This is A Natural History of Fairies by Jessica Roux, who I presume is a fairy. So if fairies were real, this would be like a textbook in magic school, I think, because it describes all about the biological things of fairies, the different types of fairies, fairy wings, the anatomy of a fairy. It has fairies of the world, so like different type of fairies. It has a whole category on fairy habitats as well, which is adorable and it just looks so cute. A whole chapter on woodland fairies. What else could we wish for? I think if I were a fairy, I might have been a freshwater fairy because I am one of those people who will not get out of the pool. Dear reader, are you ready for a magical journey like no other? Then look no further. Fairies are all around us. You just need to look very carefully. So that sounds really cute. This is one of my favorite picture books that I own. Illustrations are gorgeous and yes, 100% written by a fairy. A story set in a magic school that feels like coming home. Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. After having said on my channel that I wanted to read this book for 1,000 times, I finally read it this year and I'm very pleased with myself. And reading about the Magic Academy in this book, where the main character, Quotha, goes to, felt like coming home. It felt like the magic school of my dreams. There was this giant library in it. There is like courtyards. It's really beautiful. He goes there to learn magic. There's all these teachers and classes and it's exactly what this question describes. It feels like you're coming home. It's also one of these books that's just really atmospheric and very immersive. I almost felt like I could see the sun glistering on like the old cobblestones and I could see like the mountains behind the school. You know, it was just very much there. It felt very real and I love when a story can do that, when it's so atmospheric that it really brings you into the book. I also just have an overactive imagination, so maybe that is good to know. Fantasy books with maps. Is there anything better? I don't think so. It's definitely a bit of a chunky book, but I would say it's 100% worth it. We follow Quotha and he's basically telling his life story. He's now a bard, but he's been through a lot of things. He's learned to be a magician. He went to magic school. He used to even be in this traveling caravan way back, so you read about his childhood, coming of age, going to school, all these different things. The other story where he's an innkeeper already and he's like telling his story is set in the inn and it's also really cozy, but there's like some scary demon things going on, you know, which they're discussing. So there's an overarching fantasy story as well. Not the most comprehensive description you could get of this book, but you should just watch my channel for the vibes, not for comprehension of stories. So, queer characters who just hang out in a cozy fantasy and all is love and happiness. Cute. So cute. I don't think I know any queer fantasy books where really like nothing is going on except for Legends and Lattes, but I've recommended that for so many times now I feel like I should probably come up with something new. So for this one I'm going to go with Mooncakes, which is a graphic novel by Suzanne Walker and Wendy Xu. I've read this a long time ago, so I am not 100% sure on the details, but we follow a witch and a werewolf and there's this little romance story between them. There's also some non-binary representation. It is very cute. The illustrations are adorable. It's just such a cozy, magical world and they live in a tea shop. I believe one of the characters' parents has a tea shop. It's so witchy and whimsical, adorable, magical, all the adjectives you could come up with. It's one of those graphic novels that you just want to dive into when you feel a little bit sad and it will cheer you up. So the next request is a book full of weird, whimsical stories. I have the perfect book for you, and that is this short story collection by Roald Dahl, and the title story is The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar. Not all of the stories in this book can be classified as fantasy, but the best ones of them are definitely on the whimsical, bizarre, strange, creepy fantasy side. There's this one story in here about a man who trains himself to see through things, I believe. absurd. I read it when I was in Venice, actually. I was in Venice with my family, and we were walking through Venice, enjoying the beautiful city, but whilst we were there, I literally finished this book sitting on benches in the city, telling my family to go ahead whilst I would stay on like a little bench in the sunshine reading this book, because it was just so good. And I remember reading it at breakfast as well on vacation, so there's like lots of good memories in here. What's also really fun is that there's like stories in there that definitely have like the summer vibes. Like there's this story about a boy who can communicate with animals, and it's like set in a hotel near a beach, and Roald Dahl pokes fun at tourists a bit, so really enjoyable. And there's definitely this theme in here of people having strange abilities, and that's one of the tropes slash things in fantasy that I enjoy a lot. So if you're into that as well, highly recommend this one. Okay, next request on the list. I'm looking for an epic fantasy with pirates and magic. I have just the thing for you. I've recommended this before as well, but it's been a while. This is book 1 of the Live Ship Traders trilogy by Robin Hobb, The Magic Ship. If you're thinking to yourself, I've not seen this edition, that is correct. This is the Dutch edition. I think there's an edition of these in English as well. It's pretty old. I'm still looking for the 3rd book in this exact Dutch edition, and I'm unable to find it. I've been looking for years at this point, and I still have not read the 3rd book, despite absolutely wanting to, just because I want to read it in this edition. So that'll tell you all about what kind of person I am. I found the first 2 of these in the thrift shop for €2 together. So that was a great time. So I'm really hoping I can find the 3rd one day in like a secondhand bookstore or something like that, but I haven't been lucky thus far. In this story, we follow multiple characters throughout their respective journeys in this magical world. There's pirates, there's sea monsters, there's this extensive world that feels so huge and so real. This is an epic fantasy that you will not forget. It is wonderful. There's these magical living ships, and basically when 3 generations of a family have died on board of the ship comes alive, and you're able to do even more things with the ship and make more money living on the seas. We follow the family of one of these ships. Althea's father is about to die, and she knows she will get the ship, but then horrible things happen. She may not get the ship. Is it because she's a woman? She sets out to prove herself. It's a wonderful story. There's many more storylines, but this is the one that really stood with me and that I remembered a lot. There's also Malta, who is a girl in this story. She's absolutely insufferable, but she goes through so much, and then at the end of the 2nd book, I loved her so much. So lots of interesting character development, amazing story. This is a fantasy series that will have you set for a long time, because all the books are huge. All of them are like 800 pages, so you're good to go. Give me some fantasy books about books. For that, I think I would first and foremost go with The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. Have I finished this? No, don't look at me. Don't look at me, I'm sorry. I was on page 200, and then I just quit reading it. I don't know what's wrong with me. One day I will pick up this book and finish it like a normal person would. But what I do remember is that there's loads of books in this fantasy, so I think it's the perfect recommendation for this question. We follow Zachary Rollins, who finds this mysterious book, and there's stories of pirates, long lost lovers, and all sorts of things in that book. But then at some point he finds a story about himself, and he's utterly confused as to how this is possible. And so he goes on this sort of quest to find out what is the mystery of the book. And throughout this quest, he goes to masquerade balls, secret societies, and then he finds this door to this labyrinth, which is a sort of giant library below the earth. And it's absolutely beautiful. It's one of the most beautiful fantasy settings I've ever read. I would recommend to read this book mostly during the winter because it has a few wintry settings, but you know, you can also read it in the summer. So I really need to finish it. Maybe I'll try the audiobook. This is one of those books that I've been wanting to finish for years, but sometimes you just don't get to them, you know? One of my favorite bookish podcasts, Books Unbound, which is by Ariel Bissett and Raylene LeMay. You should check it out. It's amazing. It's one of my favorite podcasts. They have a term for this and they call it a mashed potato book. And it's basically mashed potatoes are like the best part of your dish, right? So you kind of want to save them for last. But then when you get to them, they're kind of cold and they're not as good as you expected, or maybe they're amazing and you're like, oh my god, I should have started them so much earlier. I had that exact experience with The Starless Sea because when this book came out, I was anticipating it so much and then I just kind of put off reading it, and then whilst I was reading it, I was like, this is so good, I kind of should stop because it's going to be over and, you know, silly things. I should read it. Another book that is perfect for this specific question is Inkheart by Cornelia Funk. This is the Dutch edition. One of my favorite childhood reads reads. Especially in the beginning of this book, there's so many descriptions of beautiful old libraries filled with books and homes filled to the brim with books, and it's just so lovely, and every bookworm will obsess over this book and love it. It's just the only way. It's about this bookbinder called Mo and his daughter, and Mo is obsessed with stories and reading, and he passes on his love for books to his daughter, but he never wants to read anything to Meg, his daughter. And this is one of these like strange mysteries, and then one night a strange figure approaches their home and knocks on the door, and from there on out this crazy adventure starts that leads them to all sorts of different situations, worlds, beautiful libraries. Absolutely stunning. Okay, so I think that was it for today's oddly specific book recommendations fantasy edition. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video and you got some good recommendations out of it. If you have any other oddly specific book requests, you can leave them for me in the comments down below. Don't forget to check out my new web shop. I would really appreciate it. If you don't know what to comment, leave some nice fantasy emojis in the comments down below, and I hope to see all of you guys in my next video. Thank you so much for being here. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you soon. Bye!